When someone secretly misses you, one of the clearest signs shows up in the way they communicate, specifically through unexpected messages or random check-ins that don't seem to follow any pattern. It might start subtly, a text out of nowhere asking something simple like, "Hey, how have you been?" or a comment about something from your day that you never directly shared with them. These messages often pop up at unusual times, especially late at night or during quiet hours when distractions are low and emotions speak louder than logic. They may not confess they've been thinking of you, but the timing and tone of the message often reveal what words won't. There's often no real reason for them to reach out. They don't always ask about something specific, and sometimes the conversation begins with small talk or a random observation just to open a door. It's not about what they say, it's about the fact that they said anything at all. In many cases, they pretend the conversation is casual to avoid showing vulnerability. They might send a meme they think you'd laugh at, mention something that reminded them of you, or ask a small, unnecessary question just to restart communication without calling attention to why they really reached out. Another subtle layer to this is the timing of replies. Someone who misses you may respond quicker than usual or take longer than normal because they're overthinking what to say. If they respond instantly, it's because they've been hoping for your message or keeping an eye on their phone more than they'd ever admit. If their reply takes time, it may be because they wrote something, deleted it a few times, and tried to sound balanced instead of revealing too much. Either way, there's a conscious effort behind the messaging, whether it's restraint or urgency. Both come from emotional investment. They may also find excuses to start conversations that seem harmless. Asking for a recommendation, pretending they forgot something you once told them, or checking in about something insignificant becomes a doorway to contact. These brief interactions act like emotional placeholders, filling the silence without fully exposing what they feel. Someone who doesn't miss you won't bother creating reasons to reconnect, and they won't remember details that allow them to reach out naturally. There can also be a pattern of inconsistency, disappearing for a while and then suddenly showing up again without explanation. That back and forth rhythm is often tied to inner conflict. They may try to move on but find themselves pulled back when memories or emotions surface unexpectedly. The pull becomes stronger when they realize silence isn't making them forget you. The most telling part is that none of it is random. When someone secretly misses you, communication turns into an emotional breadcrumb trail, small pieces of connection they drop not to be obvious, but to feel closer to you without crossing the line of confession. Another sign that someone secretly misses you is the way they quietly linger around your online presence without making direct contact. Social media becomes the safest place for them to stay connected without exposing their feelings. You might notice they view your stories consistently, sometimes within minutes of posting, even if they don't speak to you anymore. They may not leave comments or send messages, but their silent activity creates a pattern, one that signals curiosity, longing, or unresolved attachment. Sometimes they don't interact with your most recent posts, but instead scroll back and tap on something old, maybe a picture from months ago or a quote you shared long before. That kind of behavior isn't accidental. It means they were looking through your profile for more than a quick glance. They're trying to reconnect with your presence, even if it's just through memories captured online. It's their way of checking in on your life, your mood, and whether you've moved on. Their reactions might also be selective. Maybe they won't like every picture, but they engage with things that carry emotional weight. Something nostalgic, something personal, or something they know is meaningful to you. Sometimes they watch every video or open every status update as if they're tracking your emotional temperature. They might not speak, but that consistency tells its own story. There's also a chance they use subtle engagement as a signal. They know a like or reaction could catch your attention without forcing a conversation. It's a low-risk move, just enough to make you notice their digital footprint while allowing them to retreat if you don't respond. For them, this is a safe middle ground between silence and vulnerability. Another layer to this is timing. You might see their name appear shortly after you post something that hints at your feelings, especially if it sounds happy, sad, reflective, or uncertain. They're not just browsing, they're emotionally monitoring. They want to know if you're thinking of someone else, if you're hurting, or if you seem happier without them. Even if they don't say it, your updates affect them. Sometimes they go even further by mirroring your activity. You post something at night and they appear online around the same time. You upload a picture and suddenly they share something too. These small symmetries can reveal emotional mirroring, an unconscious attempt to feel close without speaking. They might also avoid unfollowing or blocking you, even after long periods of silence. Keeping that door open is deliberate. It allows them access to your world without committing to interaction. They're holding on in the only way they think they can get away with. When someone secretly misses you, their silence is not absence, it's observation. Their digital presence becomes a quiet confession, spoken through views, clicks, and small traces left behind where they hope you'll notice without demanding an explanation. When someone secretly misses you, they often find ways to stay connected to your world without reaching out directly. Instead of speaking to you, they move through familiar spaces and people that keep them close to your orbit. One of the most common signs is when they start asking mutual friends about you, not in an obvious or heartfelt way, but casually, as if they're just curious. They might slip your name into a conversation or ask innocent questions like whether you've been busy, how life has been for you, or if you've mentioned them lately. They're trying to gather updates without exposing what they feel underneath. It doesn't always stop at conversation. Sometimes they show up in places they know there's a chance you might be. Maybe they attend a gathering with mutual friends they never used to join, or they start appearing at events, spots, or online spaces you frequent. They'll frame it as coincidence or convenience, but the timing often reveals intention. They might pretend they didn't know you'd be there, yet somehow their arrival lines up with your presence more than once. There are moments when they use the people around you as emotional messengers. A friend might mention that your name came up unexpectedly, or someone might tell you that this person brought up a memory involving you. These indirect links are subtle ways of re-establishing connection without facing the risk of rejection or exposing that they've been thinking about you more than they'd like to admit. Sometimes they test the waters by passing a message through a shared connection, not directly, but in a way that ensures it reaches you. They may send something meant to remind you of a past moment or ask someone to tell you here, in a way that sounds casual but carries intention. It's a way to reopen a line of emotional communication without committing to a full conversation. Even in group dynamics, their behavior shifts. If mutual friends gather and you're not present, they might listen more closely when you come up, react differently than they mean to, or go quiet at the mention of your name. People who aren't affected don't pause, hesitate, or light up at the thought of someone. Their reactions reveal what their words won't. They might also try to keep their distance in front of others while still fishing for information privately. Silence between you doesn't mean silence inside them. When someone misses you but doesn't want to show it, they rely on the safety of mutual circles to stay connected. Instead of stepping toward you directly, they hover near familiar networks and shared spaces, hoping proximity will do the work their pride or fear won't let them do out loud. A powerful sign that someone secretly misses you is when they start revisiting old memories you shared, even if they act like it's casual or unimportant. Instead of saying they miss the connection, they use the past as a bridge to the present. They bring up inside jokes only the two of you would understand, mention moments you experienced together, or randomly recall something funny, deep, or personal from days you've both moved past, at least on the surface. These references aren't random. They're emotional bookmarks they return to when silence feels heavy, but honesty feels risky. You might hear something like, "Remember when or I saw something that reminded me of that one time," and they'll slip it into conversation like it just popped into their mind. In reality, those memories have been sitting with them, resurfacing when they think of you. They may not admit it, but nostalgia becomes their language when vulnerability isn't allowed to speak directly. These aren't just stories. They're quiet attempts to reconnect with a version of you they're not ready to let go of. Sometimes it goes beyond conversation. They might hold on to things tied to those memories, photos you took together, songs you once shared, a place you both loved, or even old messages they never deleted. They revisit these things privately, not because they can't move forward, but because remembering you brings comfort, warmth, or longing they haven't fully processed. Even hearing a song, seeing a location, or scrolling past something familiar can trigger a moment of silent connection they don't confess to anyone. There are also times when they joke about the past to mask deeper feelings. Humor becomes a soft cover, letting them express closeness without sounding too emotional. They might claim they're just reminiscing, but the consistency and timing tell a different story. They reach for the past when they can't reach for you. In conversations with others, your name may surface with memories attached. They might retell stories that involve you even when they don't mention you directly. A friend may hear them bring up a time you were around, laugh at something you once said, or talk about a shared experience in passing. They don't have to mention how it makes them feel. Just remembering you is its own confession. Even silence holds clues. The mind doesn't retrieve old moments for no reason. People don't recall details about someone they've emotionally detached from. When someone keeps stepping back into the past, it's often because the present still holds space for you. Memory becomes their way of staying emotionally connected without reopening a conversation they're not ready to have out loud. A subtle but revealing sign that someone secretly misses you is when they start noticing changes in your life, appearance, or habits, even when you haven't told them directly. They may not be in regular contact, but their awareness of your updates shows they've been observing you more than they'll ever admit. It might show up as a comment about your new hairstyle, a change in how you dress, something different in your routine, or even the way you've started expressing yourself. They pick up on details most people would overlook, and they mention them casually to disguise the fact that they're paying attention. Sometimes they'll bring it up through indirect acknowledgement. Maybe they say something like, "You seem different lately," or "I saw you've been doing this now," even though you never personally shared it with them. That usually means they've been checking your social media, asking about you through others, or keeping quiet tabs from a distance. Curiosity doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from emotional attachment that hasn't disappeared. There are times when they don't comment directly, but their reactions give them away. They might adjust their behavior in response to your changes. For example, if you've started going to new places, they might suddenly show up there too, pretending it's a coincidence. If you switch up your interests, style, or routines, they sometimes mirror those shifts unconsciously, trying to find relevance or closeness without acknowledging why. Their attention to detail goes beyond the surface. They notice when your energy has shifted, whether you seem happier, stronger, distant, or guarded. Someone who has moved on doesn't track your emotional weather, but someone who misses you quietly pays attention to your mood, tone, and the way you present yourself, looking for signs of whether you've changed because of them, despite them, or without them. Even silence from you can make them react. If you stop posting, sharing, or showing up in usual places, they may check in with others or look for signs you're okay. They might not message you directly, but they'll find ways to confirm you're still around, still moving, still you. Their concern doesn't always come with words. It shows up in the effort they make to stay updated. Sometimes they disguise their curiosity as a joke, a random question, or a neutral observation, but the intention is rarely neutral. If they didn't care, they wouldn't notice. When someone stays tuned in to your life from a distance, it's because part of them is still connected. Paying attention is their quiet way of staying close to you without exposing what they feel. Their silence may hide their emotions, but their awareness exposes what their words don't. There's a kind of energy that doesn't need words, and when someone secretly misses you, It starts showing up in the way they interact, whether you're speaking to them directly or simply crossing paths in some way. The emotional tone shifts. Even if the behavior stays subtle, they may act normal on the surface, but there's a softness, warmth, or hesitancy that wasn't there before. Their responses carry more thought, and their effort to stay in the moment with you becomes noticeable, even when the conversation is simple or short. When they do speak to you, they often linger, replying slower, not because they're uninterested, but because they're choosing their words carefully. Or they respond faster than they used to, as if they've been waiting for any excuse to connect. There's no middle ground with someone who's holding back unspoken emotion. Their tone, their pauses, and the way they react to even small things start revealing what they won't say directly. They don't want to seem too eager, but they also don't want the conversation to end too fast. Even in silence, there's a presence. When someone is emotionally tied to you, they carry that connection into every brief interaction. You may sense tension, nostalgia, nervousness, or unexpected calm around them. Eye contact lingers longer, messages come with a different warmth, and even a quick check-in carries more weight than before. They might hesitate before ending a chat or throw in a last comment just to keep things going a little longer. It's never framed as emotion, but it feels like it. There are also moments where their guard drops unintentionally. A comment slips out that sounds more caring than casual, or their expression changes for a second when your name is mentioned. They may go quiet when something reminds them of you, or their voice shifts without them realizing why. Emotion always finds a way to move through tone, timing, and attention, even when words are controlled. You might also notice a difference in how they respond to you compared to others. Maybe they're more patient with you, more reactive, or more cautious. They could act unaffected while still checking in on how you interpreted something they said. Those tiny moments where they seem to weigh your reaction show that your opinion still matters to them, even if they won't admit it. Sometimes they try to hide their feelings by acting extra neutral, but neutrality itself becomes a performance. Their restraint is a sign on its own. When someone secretly misses you, their presence carries quiet emotion. The connection doesn't disappear. It just shifts into tone, timing, attention, and the small ways they try not to show what's still there.